on recordings. Today we're going to be discussing the new differentiation in the service department and corporate housing sectors, and how COVID has affected all of our businesses. I will. I realise I've not done the countdown video. Let's do it right now. Be a shame to miss it. I'm really not sure if it's playing. I told you it's very, very, that's a particular part. Let's skip that video in case and assume it's not playing. We're streaming live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. We hope to stream live in the future on LinkedIn. As welcome to the viewers, to the people watching on recordings, and many thanks to panelists today. It's another excellent panel. Please, viewers, do communicate with us on the chat. In fact, if you, by all means, use the chat box to say hello and let us know that you're there. And let's get started with the discussion. I will, in fact, bear with me. Don't know why these videos aren't playing. Gives time for Dominic to join us anyway.
Very professional, Richard. I'm most impressed.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So you probably saw it a bit clearer than I could see it there. Thank you. Again, welcome everybody. Talking about this afternoon the new differentiation in service and corporate housing. How is it relevant to us? Obviously, the world has changed. I suppose in a brutal way, you could say if our businesses haven't changed, then we've got to be doing something wrong, because we need to change, because the world has changed around us. What we'd like to aim to do this afternoon is consider those changes, and most importantly, to consider the effect that it will have on how you all conduct your business. The structure this afternoon we'll split it into two. We'll do pre-COVID, then we'll have a short break for the sponsor video, and then we will go into the post-COVID. So with regards to differentiation in pre-COVID, I'll throw in a few words. We'll get stuck in straight away, really, into the discussion. So we're talking differentiation and what is differentiation really? Well, the benefits which distinguish one company from another. But those benefits need also to be such that your client is prepared to pay for them. There's no point being different if nobody is bothered. So that's really what we're talking about when we talk about differentiation. Pre-COVID in our happy world, we sold. Let me just mute some of these microphones. We pre-COVID, we lived in a happy world where we sold on space. Service departments, corporate housing, we offer more space than hotels. Location, Marriott and their location. And Hilton, show my age if I could say I remember the days when Hilton were running an ad campaign, take me to the Hilton. In those days, same was better, a generic worldwide brand, wherever you were. So we're talking about, in the old days, we were talking about more space, location being important. Living life like a local became important as well. And as such, as the sector broadened, accreditation also became important to differentiate one brand or one company from another. I could go on and on, but if I could ask, please, the panel, highlighting and obviously acknowledging we all have different businesses. I've muted everybody, by the way, so you will need to unmute yourself when you speak. We all have different businesses. There are agents, operators, and hybrids on the panel. In the old days, what would you say was the most important area in which you differentiated yourselves from competition? And by the way, I hasten to add, neither at this stage nor in the future are we looking for any trade secrets or any. We want to keep it general, but just generally, what was important, do you think, in the sector to differentiate one business from another? And I don't know if somebody would be kind enough to start us off with that. So we're talking classic differentiation. I muted everybody.
I can kick off if you want, Richard.
Yeah, please, Stephen. Yeah, I can.
And the reason I kick off is because I remember very well that Hilton ad. Take me to the Hilton, because I was working for Marriott. I took out slogans on the side of taxis in Glasgow saying, "Now take me back to the Marriott." Just after the Hilton opened. So differentiations, I mean, you've covered them: location, product, size, brand. Brand is a big differentiator. Service, and the models offered. I think where we would try and always distinguish ourselves is that we were multi-model, and that we were a trusted supplier to large contracts globally. And the great glory of age is we've got a lot of experience in the team, so that possible differentiate between us and some of the competitors.
Exactly. I mean, on that point of brand, really, if I could perhaps bring you in, Tonia, because BridgeStreet have a lot of brands under that umbrella, and one kind of direction, really. So when we moved away from that, the Hilton idea there was one brand was targeting one particular marketplace, I guess. But what? Please, could you explain the brands within BridgeStreet and who they target?
Well, certainly. And so, some of the most dramatic and impactful instances in our industry have been as a result of crisis. And pre-COVID, where BridgeStreet really felt we differentiated, and we are a global company, although I am the director here in the U.S. agency section of our organization. We do have a presence in EMEA and APAC. even while pre-COVID, some of the most brilliant differentiating factors came out of those crises. And I think back to 9/11 here in the United States, and I wasn't in the industry at the time. I've been in the industry 10 years, but going back to 9/11, I know that, for example, the requirement for duty of care became really predominant. And BridgeStreet has always differentiated itself in its investment in innovation and intelligence and analysis tools. So we've been able to leverage our technology investment for our BridgeStreet intelligence platform to help us identify specifically where our clients are located and very quickly be able to report to our clients on duty of care. That's one of the very key things that has been a differentiating factor pre-COVID and remains post-COVID. Also, I would say our satisfaction guarantee, the commitment to our guests for a clean and comfortable room and keys that are ready has carried through the decades. So those are things that I think came out of a very, very difficult times in the past. And I think we're continuing to see a lot of innovation and a rediscovery of our BridgeStreet brand now as a pure agency organization here in the Americas in delivering those continued solutions to our clients and guests globally.
Exactly. Yes. No, thank you for that. How many brands do you have actually under the?
Well, BridgeStreet actually has the capability to provide very adaptive and flexible solutions. So how many brands do our clients need? I think that's the more succinct question, right? And those things have changed truly in time, right? The service department as we once knew it, the corporate housing apartment in the major metro area may not be what's required now. So BridgeStreet has the capability to offer that legacy style corporate apartment, a more flexible and adaptive, maybe a more suburban offering that incorporates integrated workspace, maybe is located in a second or third tier market. We're absolutely have really developed our competency in delivering robust internship programs. So the internship style that we've described as our studio accommodations are another example of the brand. And I really think of them more as solutions for our clients. And I think the solutions will continue to be developed as time goes on and the needs continue to evolve for our clients and guests. Everything from service departments to curated vacation type homes could be secured through the BridgeStreet operations and agency teams here.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, thank you. Peter and John. So, Peter, with Acomodeo, would you like to outline a little bit regarding Acomodeo? And do I understand it correctly? So, an OTA specializing in service accommodation. Is that?
Well, OTA, I found a little bit, we don't really see ourselves as an OTA, but first of all, thank you for the invitation and the opportunity also to explain a little bit on how we are supporting the marketplace and supporting, from the one hand travelers, but also on the other side, I think a lot of property owners and property developers. By the way, you hear a siren because I'm in the city center of Frankfurt, so there's something going on. Apologies for that. But I think if you talk about differentiation between before COVID, if I may say it, so let's say until probably March of this year, when COVID really kicked in, we see really fundamental changes. I think to start before COVID, I think differentiation is also a lot about who's your customer. I think from an operator point of view, your customer might be the traveler, might be everybody looking for a long stay, looking for a service apartment, coming from that angle. Actually, we flipped the coin a little bit saying, well, who's the biggest user of corporate apartments and where's the biggest opportunity from a technology and a services point of view? So, a classical OTA is you can book online, you do your thing online, and actually I'm not there. What we combine is I would say more the classical service model where you still talk to a human. We can support you with group bookings. We can support you with, a majority of other services that you might require. At the same time, we do support the technology. I think the differentiator comes in when you talk about target groups, saying, are they corporate companies? Are they project managers? Are they finance departments, HR functions, or the traveler itself? The traveler itself, we look at that saying, well, it's a business traveler, which could be an expat, which could be project-based, or I think naturally the digital workers moving forward. So what we deliver is actually to both sides. On the one hand, towards all the operators, we offer sales and marketing opportunities within the corporate business travel world. And what we do with our technology, we integrate completely into the corporate customer. May it be internal systems, single sign-ons, online booking tools, etc., etc. That obviously, if coming from that, that also means that the differentiation opportunities for the operators was, and I'm repeating this, was very much driven around location for one. So where's the project taking place? Is it big city centers, head offices, etc.? It was very much price driven. So the comparison and the price radar that Acomodeo makes every year shows a clear differentiation between service apartments, long stay apartments versus hotels. The extra services around that. And then you see the home away from home kind of a lot of marketing going on around that feeling. So taking those components from budget to long stay, obviously that also means that your differentiation towards the marketplace is fundamentally different. I won't keep up a lot of time. I've just got one more point actually that I would like to clarify, is that it also means that the way we communicate and what was the priority on communicating on the one hand to the operators, on the other hand to our corporate travelers, whereas to the operator, we're giving you a sales and marketing platform where we completely integrate into corporate world. So that's where your benefit comes from. On the other hand, what we're trying to do in the marketplace, it was very much focused around creating awareness of service departments. We are in the industry, but there's a big wide world out of there that actually still has no clue in a lot of countries on the opportunity of service departments. Well, we flipped the coin there, showing much more going to values and benefits per stakeholder, per target group. And obviously, then you come into also the opportunities is how many locations do you have, the worldwide opportunity to work with operators, and the explanation on technology. So the fundamental drivers behind that were around trust, very much around trust, because there are a lot of unknown brands around there that actually have fantastic products, but not everybody knows them, and they come from a different angle, so there's not a lot of sales and marketing. We offer a modular tech stack, so we can integrate in the company. We combine that with services, and obviously together with the operators and locations and availability, that was our drive, right? And that's where we had the biggest focus around those two comments. I can also talk about the operator side, but I think everybody on the call knows us, well, hopefully knows us, and if not, get in touch. That from an operator side, we try to show our value during the sales and marketing approaches within the corporate world.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Peter, for that. John, we've talked about brands in the past, and obviously Cycas manage a number of brands, but over to you, please, regarding how you saw the world before March 2020 and with regard to differentiation.
Yeah, to your question of differentiation, yes, Cycas Hospitality, we're an independent manager of hotels, a third-party operator. And so we've got a lot of different brands, big brands, some independent hotels at all different categories, including lots of service departments or all suite hotels, extended stay hotels. We've had this debate or philosophy within our company since the very beginning. I really don't want to compete on the physical. For us to say we've got the best drapes in our hotels, nobody has better drapes in any place they run than we do, or we can cook a scrambled egg better than any of our competition is a silly argument, because it sets us up for somebody to come in and make the claim, well, we've got better drapes or we can cook eggs better. And I would also challenge the notion, has anybody ever stayed at a hotel or any place else because they had the best drapes, the best carpet, the most scrumptious eggs? It just never happens. It's a point of entry. Everybody's got to have those things. Instead, the thing that differentiates you for the longer term and builds the loyalty is the service you deliver. You can deal, dare I say, with even a tired property if in fact you've got the smile on the front desk, if you've got the friendly housekeeper that engages with you when you see them in the corridor, when you've got the people around the hotel that genuinely are glad to see you. That service aspect is a differentiator between the hotels that we run and indeed all of our competition. And that's what we strive for as I compete with, well, some of the people on the call and or on the video, and the others that are out there. That's where I want to be in the arena. I think I want to try and make sure that I can deliver the best service, and I want to compete with my competition to do it better. And I think in most cases, that service difference that we offer, the comparison between the other guys that are in our neighborhood, 9 times out of 10, we win that battle. And I suggest that that's what builds the loyalty. That's what gets people coming back. And more than any physical attribute of a property, of course, there's some extremes. Everybody knows the difference between a 4-season or Premier Inn, but I'm talking about the broad middle where most of us play in. It's really hard to make a physical difference that makes a difference, so physical differentiation that really makes a lasting difference. But that smile, that service, that friendly attitude, that delivery of that service, that really sticks in the minds of customers and potential customers, and that's what gets them back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Over to you, Tonia.
I agree. I was going to say, I agree. Service continues to be a differentiator in our sector, and will always be the differentiator in our sector.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a whole hospitality business, and I agree with John as well. In fact, we are putting more effort and more money into training now than we were this time last year, because we think that as times get tough, people are going to need more personalization, more sort of understanding. And actually, from a counsellor's point of view, a lot of the reservations point of view, it's a more complex job than it was a year ago, in that there's a lot more questions are being asked by the clients. So the actual time to convert a booking is taking longer. So it's even from a supply point of view, we're an agency, so from a supply point of view, a lot of our supply chain might have downsized, might have put people on furlough. So getting responses is taking more time. So there's more emphasis really placed upon service and more training needed in service.
Yeah, I think that's the direction we're going, isn't it? And that might be quite a nice way to lead us into the heavier COVID discussion. On the point of those brands and differentiation, what have you, I watched a video recently regarding, it was based in America, and they were oversimplifying it. They were talking about a strip of road where you couldn't differentiate one hotel from another particularly, and one was selling on the type of breeze blocks they used because they would offer a better sleep sleep quality, which is at the end of the day is what everyone wants, isn't it? They don't even use the restaurants half the time. So I will now try to go into the sponsor video, and then when we come out of it, we'll talk about post-COVID. And I think we're back in the room. I didn't see any of that video, so I hope somebody did.
It went quite well, Richard. It was okay. I even saw it. It was good.
Very slick.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. From my point of view, I'm playing blind some of the time, so I'm sure I'm looking like I've got 2 left feet. So welcome back, everybody. From that video, we've unfortunately returned to 2020 because it's one year that we all want to have behind us. To start the differentiation kind of debate as we are now, I would like to refer to a couple of ads again, I'm afraid, that I've seen recently, and it kind of says it all. And I'm going to refer to Hilton again. They were running an ad, it's a global ad. It's called To New Memories. And what they're selling on is nostalgia, basically. It's the memories that we had when we could travel, when we could do all those things pre-March in our world. And, they're selling on everybody getting back together in the future. To get it into more kind of like at a more basic level, I'll refer to a Tetley's Tea advert where they have Now We're Talking. Again, it's something that we can't do. That's the world we're living in. And Stephen, you mentioned about care earlier, and I was very interested in in your release back in June, I think it was, regarding that client care kind of thing. We're battered and bruised, everybody, and the customers need to feel more trust, confidence. They need to feel safety. I won't go through all my bullet points here, but would anybody like we in the Sabbath wine time we've discussed an awful lot about what we're doing now: sanitization, social distancing, contactless check-in. But how do people feel about the new world and differentiation? How we're going to move forward?
I've got a comment about.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
John?
Just a caution, really. This is really not so much what to do, but something I hope that we don't do. I really hope we don't start competing about how clean I am versus how clean you are. That I've got better mops and I've got better sanitizer for my lifts than you do. I think, gee, if that's the base level that we have to go down to, I think that's really bad for all of us in the long run. Our customers will expect us to be clean and exercise the diligence to make sure that we've exercised all the proper hygiene regimen, but that should be a given. But for me or anyone or a brand to say, look how clean I am, look how clean I've done it for you, I think is what a shame for our industry. As I talked about before, it's about the word Stephen used, hospitality. We're in the hospitality business. We're not trying to be the sanitation engineers in a hospital A&E here. We're running hospitality. However, having said that, I recognize that the people in the hotels, they've got a newfound challenge in that the expectations of the guests are dramatically different. You've got some people, I would be in this category, who are satisfied with the main reception being hosed down once a week. That's clean enough for me. And then you got other people who expect it to be a hospital operating theater with sanitation and disinfectant and blue lights and all that stuff going on. And you got everything in between. How the front office people or the people that are facing customers deal with that wide disparate expectation is a heck of a challenge. But I'll come back to my first point. I really hope I don't have to compete with you to say that I'm cleaner than you are and my soap is better than your soap. What a terrible thing what a legacy for us and the virus.
I agree. Sorry.
The scrambled eggs are very good, though, John.
I just wanted to jump in there because I think, John, you've got a very valid point, right? If you look at differentiation of the service department, I would say generically long stay industry in general, actually we are extremely positive. Not because we're only in that business, but I think there are a couple of elements that we see developing. The visibility of our industry has increased enormously. Right. So historically, I would say we always had to sell ourselves and sell the value. Nowadays, we've got a lot of corporate customers approaching us saying, hey, you're one of the few that we know that delivered a professional supply, professional operators, not the pop and mom shops. where we want to do, and we want to add that to our portfolio. So we see a lot of movement of that, which means that the visibility has increased. I tried to do some analysis, with Acomodeo and all our data that we have, and actually the differentiation that the industry has given. So, without talking specific brands, the industry has been fantastic in saying, first of all, we're still there, right? We're open, we can support you. We've seen a massive amount of initiatives of supporting people that could not travel home. We've seen examples of corporate customers that had 100 people stuck in Germany, in this case, stuck in Germany. Hotels were closing down. The country was going into lockdown. Where do those people go? Because they couldn't fly. So we had a lot of those kind of requests where we are very grateful, actually, that a lot of the operators stayed operating, even though maybe less floors, less everything, but they remained open. I think the signal towards the corporate traveler, still very much around the business traveler, I agree, was really fantastic. Other initiatives and differentiation that you see happening at the moment, the differentiation is absolutely not about a cleaner mop or am I cleaner than you. The differentiation, what's happening at the moment, is being very specific to target groups. We've seen great initiatives, I think, in the UK around healthcare. We've seen great initiatives around in the US around the firefighters, and Australia around the firefighters, where actually the offering has fundamentally changed as we're going to help you. So it's became from something we're trying to sell to something, dear customer, we're solving a problem for you. And I think that's the crucial part moving forward, that actually that's the name of the game, is that are we solving a problem for something, or are we helping somebody, or are we giving them a fantastic experience? I think around the safety and security, I don't want to spend a lot of time on that because this has been floating for ages, but actually as Acomodeo, working globally in so many countries with so many customers, where the frustration comes in is that actually we see brands trying to compete on that. So there's no global standard, there's no regional standard, there's no country standard. It almost looks like everybody's reinventing the wheel around the same thing. And that same thing is, by the way, we're clean. Well, I would hope so if I visit something that is clean. It's around limited public spaces, which is a natural kind of component of, I would say, long stay, the stuff like that. I think the differentiation that comes in as an industry is that it's easier to do digital check-in and check-outs to be able to support the 1.5 meter distance, to support those elements. And I think those standards, if we would be able to do that on a global scale with all the operators, that would be fantastic. Because now it's being turned around, it's coming towards us, saying, well, it's a demand of the customer, and how do you do that? Another difference that I just wanted to highlight as well, and that's a little bit more from one platform, but it applies to us all, is that the customer demand, if I talk about corporates, has fundamentally changed towards everything around traveler tracking. So where are my travelers and what is happening around that? And can you integrate into that? That's where the Acomodeo modular travel stack comes in. We do safety and security, which is logical because everybody does that. And it's a lot about reassurance that we're still open, we're here to help, traveler tracking, and obviously the fundamentals around the whole COVID area. But I do believe, and that's from a figure point of view, I think everybody has seen that, is that service departments are still hit, but much lesser hit, I would say, compared to hotels. And I also believe that, and that's what we hear feedback from travelers, is that travelers travel less, but they travel longer, which means they combine a lot of stuff, which automatically drives into a fantastic added value that our industry has.
Thanks, Peter. I think you brought some really good points. And John, I agree with your cleanliness question. And I do think, though, that there's another level of transparency that's necessary. Now this COVID has been a wake-up call. And one of our viewers even posted a chat relative to Hilton brands or other hotel brands now moving into the service department space. And that's a great indicator, in fact, that our sector is now coming into its own. It's at the forefront as a solution to address travelers' needs that offer things like the sense of security and safety that have taken on an entirely new meaning now on the face of COVID. So we're seeing that absolutely. The differentiation, I think, that we're seeing, I believe, Peter, you mentioned something about standards, and I think BridgeStreet is worked to integrate more into its business intelligence, its communication to our clients and guests, the information that we think is important to them relative to security and safety. And we've done that really through very rigorous dialogue with our partners in supply chain, and have worked to introduce a protocol mapping that helps us identify from our supply chain what are the certifications or accreditations that they have subscribed to, either through training or other initiatives. And Stephen mentioned, a lot of us have taken a lot of time during this COVID downturn to invest in training. But BridgeStreet, I think, has taken this a little bit further in that we're asking with every bid request that our suppliers identify the answers to a couple of questions relative to their investment in protocol. Have they become trained and accredited? Are they providing specific products in the serviced solution home? And what is the gap in time between guests? And we've been able to capture that information and actually pass that through to our clients and guests so that they can take that information, which I think is a huge differentiator again here in the post-COVID. The more information, the better. Take that information and make an intelligent decision. And it allows the guest as well to make the decision that's right for them. Because what's good for a millennial traveling into a major market is going to be different than a more seasoned traveler with children and partner in tow, or even aging parents in tow. So these are things that are going to, sort of require a rebalancing of effort. And we think that we've provided that more transparently. And the feedback that we've received is that it is, like our satisfaction guarantee, unprecedented in our space. The other thing that I would mention is that we've continued to survey, to call and connect and engage with our supply chain to make sure we understand what their health is and what they require from us to ensure that they can continue to provide robust solutions that are going to deliver what our clients need. So that's something else that I think we've been really very rigorous in taking this downturn time to connect, not just with the clients and guests, but with the supply chain as well. And we've been very transparent as well as passing along information to them to make sure that they can be best prepared. The list of accreditations and information about what's incorporated into which accreditation is available, as I said, with each quote to our clients. But it's also available for the supply chain to understand what avenues they may have to bring their teams into the protocol and compliance realm. And Stephen mentioned earlier, the business has become much more complex because of the necessity for travelers to comply with the evolving changes for COVID. Here in the United States, maybe we have 20 states that have some quarantine requirements, but we understand that in EMEA and APAC, the quarantine regulations are changing, I hear, almost multiple times even in a day. And so our team spends a lot of time briefing on what those changes are so that we can intelligently speak with our clients, the relocation counselors, the travelers, and make sure that we're helping them make, again, the best decision, looking at the current scenario, the evolving landscape of inventory and availability, what's compliant within their budget and protocols internally for cost savings, and bringing them in to help them make sure that when they do arrive, they can focus on their mission and deliver on their commitment for performance to their employer. So I think, again, the security, safety, communication, and the transparency of available accreditation is going to continue to be something that's important as we look into 2021 and the continuing effects of this this scenario.
Yeah,
exactly. And my thoughts are, I agree with a lot of what's been said. Everything is going to change. So the world as we knew it is definitely not going to be the world going forward. So we've talked a bit about sanitization and some about tech and some about training. Every aspect is going to change. And Darwin said it, it's not the strongest or the most intelligent, it's the most adaptable to change. So, we have to make use of our advantages. We haven't got necessarily the scale and the size of some of the other big organizations, but that means we're in speedboats as opposed to cruise liners trying to turn around. And the cruise line business isn't one to be in at the moment. But, you can take it, whether it's sanitization, whether it's the product, physical product will change dramatically, whether it's consumer demand, whether it's service levels, they're all going to change. But ultimately, it will boil down to the same old thing, which is solving customer problems as efficiently and effectively as possible and treating people like human beings. From our perspective, that will also be our supply chain. Because we said, they haven't got as much business as they used to have, therefore they haven't got as much cash as they used to have. So I think critical in this whole pandemic is really to ensure that you stay integral to your values and core, and you stay, you deal with people with integrity. John alluded to that. It's not necessarily whether you can cook scrambled eggs a bit quicker or whether you've got the cleanest supply chain program, because who knows who's the cleanest supply chain program? And there is a plethora of people now saying that they are officials on accreditation. So the whole accreditation area is going to spawn a new industry in the same way that those old enough to remember TQM when it first came in, spawned 9000, etc. About 1 billion consultants on the subject. So I think you've got to stay true to your values. You've got to remain, integral, and that could potentially be and you're going to stay in business, and that potentially could be a differentiator. There's going to be a different consumer. There's going to be different demands. It's going to be very subtle. What the buyer now needs will change, will evolve over the next year. Things like they're no longer just responsible for the security and safety of the people in their accommodation or the flight or the ground transportation that they get on there. The buyers are now responsible for the journey from the home, what the spouse is feeling, what their sentiment is, what the extended family of the traveller are doing. So we're probably going to see longer term stays. I think there's big opportunities. And as Peter said early on, we've survived this. This industry will survive this quite well. And I've been through, unfortunately, quite a few downturns in the hospitality business, 2011, 2009. Every time it's like as though you're going into the sea in Cornwall. I don't know if any listeners from Cornwall, but it'll be a bit stormy out there. You dive underneath the wave and you get back up and then you dive underneath the wave again. So service departments survive quite well. And I would think the operators who are concentrating on sort of inventing their business, reinventing their service will do well. It's nothing new. It's like the Great Depression. If you happen to be in coal manufacturing in the Great Depression in a heavily labor-intensive business, then you're probably in a bit of trouble. If you happen to be building bicycles, you're probably selling on TV sets, you're probably doing quite well.
I'm nowhere near as old as Stephen. He's got a lot more experience when it comes to depressions and the age-old things, remembers back to the Middle Ages. But anyway, leaving that aside, the silver lining I suggest to this whole pandemic thing for us in this broad service department industry is the fact that most of our rooms have kitchens, and it's an advantage that we have, and frankly, I think we should exploit the hell out of it. Our competition is not each other. Our competition are the mainstream full service hotels that don't have kitchens. I don't know how long that advantage is going to last. Probably for quite some time, I think, certainly into the foreseeable future. All of us should be hammering that, and I recognize this is slightly contradictory from what I said at the beginning about physical differences don't make a difference. But then I was talking about the very narrow specific. Now I'm talking about the broad general thing about rooms with kitchens versus rooms without kitchens. The fact that we have them, we should be hammering the hell out of our hotel competition because of the flexibility it offers to our customers, the ability to live like you do at home and insulate yourself from the mass group of the great unwashed out there that are in restaurants and bars that are outside. Stay in your own place and live like you do at home is today an even bigger advantage than it used to be pre-COVID.
It's control of your environment. We can and market ourselves as having your guest has the ability to control his environment, which you don't, unfortunately. In the I was going to say the Holiday Inn Express, but now I will say, because John's online, I'll say the Hilton. So yeah, we control the environment, and that will be a critical factor in how we present that.
I think just to jump in there, and I think Steve and John, you both got a very valid point there. Is that obviously if you look at competition, that's the way we look at it as well. Even though we are, we help everybody in the sales and marketing, and we help with bringing customers to the operators. At the same time, if you look at the model comparing to hotels, right? What's the differentiation, and which added benefits or value does the service apartment industry bring towards hotels, right? The home away to home, price is a question, flexibility is a question, and also the minimum standards become in there. So for us to work with an operator, it's exactly those kind of things, right? Is there a kitchen on board? What kind of facilities do you have? Which kind of filters can we use? Which creates a benefit. And if we take it at one level further towards private rentals, it actually becomes much easier, because then you get into the minimum standards with transparency and trust, corporate invoicing, and the levels around that. So if you take it from a competitive point of view, I think the industry itself is so good positioned and has so much added value that actually it can only come out of this much stronger, but there will be nuances and there will be different requirements, to your point, because our belief at the moment, Acomodeo, is it's going to be with COVID. It's not going to be before and after, because after COVID-19, there's going to be a COVID-20 or a COVID-30 or 40, whatever. I think the foundation is going to change, and that's where service departments is uniquely positioned actually to reap the benefits around that. I also wanted to compliment a lot of operators that they are not playing the price game. What we see at the moment is, if I look at price comparisons and all that, everybody is reasonably sticking to their guns, and there's not a lot of price dumping going on, which I also believe is a really important factor for the industry to be taken serious, right? So if you take the competition, you take values, benefits. At this moment, at least on a macro level globally, we don't see a lot of that happening. So I think that's also, I see that as a positive towards the future, combined with the values and benefits that we bring.
I think, yeah, that's interesting too, Peter. I saw a McKinsey report very recently on Q2 hotel, and as far as price dumping, we know here in the States, we saw a huge dip in price in New York City, and McKinsey was reporting Q2 at 80 to 89% drop and 25% occupancy, and we continue to see very low occupancy in that area as travelers were looking for a service department solution with a kitchen, with a buffer, and some sense of privacy and some sense of protection and comfort that's going to protect them during the very uncertain times. And I've been in hospitality for about 10 years, but my prior life was in tech and telecom, and I think a lot about that old .com boom and the introduction of cloud-based software, and when everyone went to move from their hardwired solutions, enterprise solutions, to the greater flexibility, more agile, innovative solutions of cloud-based computing. And I feel that our industry is really mirroring that kind of renaissance, I guess is the best to say, because we've had now a very direct reminder of how important it is to have some resilience, agility, adaptability, scalability in our models. And BridgeStreet, as well, as one of those that's really evaluated its operations and shifted more to a more adaptive, flexible agency model in most markets. And I think that'll continue to give us the flexibility to offer the right size kind of kitchen, to offer the integrated workspace, and sometimes even multiple workspaces, as families are not only working at home, but they are educating at home, and creating really custom solutions that address the needs of the individuals. And I'm proud to be part of the industry, and think we're taking this opportunity to very much move in the right direction to solve some very important problems for people in everyday life.
Thank you. I've been trying to manage the comments going through there, and Thank you very much, everybody, for making those comments, asking the questions. A lot of what the questions and comments seem to focus on were the effects of let's say Airbnb, so the short stay accommodation sector, and whether, whilst we may want to try and hold the prices firm, and even agents and operators alike, there are smaller short stay accommodation operators who will be happy to push the rates right down. And is that not something that is affecting our sector?
Yeah, but the buyer, yeah, it is. I mean, Airbnb are doing very well in plus 30 night stays at the moment, really well, because people are looking for a change of scenery. So it's not necessarily that they're working on a Zoom call anyway. So it doesn't matter whether they're working on a Zoom call in Seattle or San Francisco or I don't know, Fort Lauderdale. So they can clear off, go and rent a place for a month and still be on the Zoom call. So it's it's staycation with a different, I'm mixing pleasure slightly differently. But the buyer, the corporate buyer, still has responsibilities and duty of care. So really, the onus is on us as a sector to work together. ASAP have been really, and Chipper have been working very strongly to try and differentiate between the Airbnb style product and the professional organizations who can who you can revert back to and ensure that the place is clean. So I see it as really rather an opportunity as opposed to a threat, the Airbnb thing. I think buyers, more than ever, the 63% buyer, 63% of buyers said they're going to be more likely to ensure or enforce compliance with company programs post-COVID than pre-COVID. So in other words, less chance of using Airbnb, more chances of using who we told you to use in the first place.
Well, I'm seeing Airbnb is out there starting their own programs now to certify owners. So they're getting on board with understanding the impact of assurance of some sort of certification or protocol for that kind of living as well. And it speaks to the fundamental needs for security and safety of all travelers. So we'll continue to see where that goes. And I think it was Peter was mentioning, that will, or maybe you, Stephen, that there'll be an entire market opening up of certification agencies out there developing protocols to meet whether it's ASAP, CSC, or WHO requirements. And we need to be paying close attention to those things and being, again, transparent and communicative to our travelers who are making the decisions.
And the buyers of those accreditation programs need to verify what is the quality, because you can buy an accreditation program for $5,
Right.
as long as you give you a picture of your grandmother in. So there's no value in that. Yeah. You're going to have to get a good accreditation program because the buyers are going to look for that.
It's true. Information and education is key. Helping educate our buyers what is a valid certification, what is simply a rubber stamp with a price.
No, accreditation, vital going forward, I think, isn't it? A good accreditation. You mentioned bleisure, Stephen, and I've heard terms work and staycation, and I've heard the term workation or remote working. Do people see that as part of the future? Is there a chance that corporates will actually be traveling the world and not going to different cities? Because that ties in actually with something you said right at the beginning, Tonia, where with regards to suburbs and moving out of city centres, properties moving out of the city centres.
We are definitely seeing that here in the States, and it's a greater indicator in the overall housing market. And it's necessary to educate the buyers because they don't understand if there is a lot of vacancy in New York City, why then are the rates not lower in New York City? And they also want to know, well, if my traveler can go to an outlying suburb in Westchester or Jersey City, why can't they get a lower rate there like they used to? fact of the matter is there's limited availability. People are moving out of those major markets, and they are occupying the multifamily and mixed use space in all of these other second and third tier markets, and that is driving up occupancy and it's driving up costs. So, pretty soon Lawrence, Kansas is going to be looking at a price tag closer to Chicago, and we'll need to be able to explain why that is happening. But then that's not just in a service department space where, the housing market here at least is seeing a lot of people moving into those areas. And we're seeing a lot of corporate clients looking to be in these resort spaces that at least are within an hour or two drive of a major market where maybe they have a home base or a corporate regional office. And so I think the business has shown that they can work remotely and still be successful. We'll continue to see that in the future COVID years, COVID 20 and 21.
I've got a little bit of a different view on that, actually, because I think the working from home and working from anywhere and all the principles, that's been going on, since I still had hair, right? I've been doing that with my previous company for a long time, bringing people to working from home and those kind of concepts. I think if you deep dive into working from home studies, we've also seen that the big boys like an Accenture, I believe, and Microsoft, they were putting people back in as well, because we mustn't underestimate the negatives of working from anywhere or working from home. I think it just has become very visible in the market space that it's actually doable, which was not unknown if you've been in call center industries, and that we knew that already for quite some time, that it's actually doable. But 100% moving out of offices, to be honest, I'm not that convinced, because everything around a company is nothing else than a bunch of people that have the same vision and idea how to do something. So if you, it's a little bit philosophical, but if you take that forward, then human interaction and everything is not going to go away. The biggest stress factor at the moment is that people feel that they are locked out at home. If you have a contract with 100% working from home, you're going to have that same feeling. That's not going to suddenly change because it's not COVID, but it's your contract. So I think there's going to be a mix between the multiple elements. I do believe that the bigger corporates have seen an opportunity, and that's my scare, to save a lot of money. Right? Because they say now, oh, hold on, I've worked out that I can lose my office space in London City or Frankfurt City Centre. I can dump that, push everybody to home, and I'm saving a fortune. And that's actually also my biggest concern, because the guys that are taking those decisions were already working from home or working virtual because they travel the world. So it's a little bit of controversy, and I personally, I think it's a trend. I do believe everybody is to some extent happy, but what we also see is after 6 weeks, that happy face is gone. Right? To be honest, I love my family. I love to see them, but I don't need to see them the whole day, 7 days a week, right? Because that really give me a lot of, that also impacts me. Let me phrase it like that.
Yeah, we can't underrate human interaction. It continues to be a driving force for innovation and development. So
and my wife shares that view as well, Peter.
Yeah, Peter, perhaps we can organize a swap. You come here and I'll go there. We'll try that for a month to see how that works out.
Everything is something.
The levels of productivity amongst large corporates from working from home has not yet been tested, because no one's working at 100%. The corporates aren't working at 100% capacity. So I would agree with Peter. I think the longer term picture is people move back. But there will be change. So it might well be that even people relocating don't go into the office 5 days a week. So you go from Buenos Aires to London and you're only in the office 3 days a week and you work from home. So you have to adapt the product. So you have to have a product which enables people to work from home. So the business of making collapsible desks that slide under beds, probably a good thing to be doing at the moment. You have to alter that product to adjust to the new demands.
Will that be reflected in the accommodation that we offer as well? So it not just includes kitchen, but includes office kind of thing?
I think
we're seeing this.
Yeah, if you're not designing your product around the ability to work from home, then it's probably an error. Because a lot of the apart hotels swapped size in the apartment for space down below, for public area space. And what we're certainly seeing is the demand is for control of the environment, which means I want more space in my apartment and less public space down below. So it will be interesting to see how those products perform.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll also see some shift away from the owned and operated properties that we're sort of standalone in a major market, and integrate more options into some of this mixed use space where you have the apartment above with the, like you said, the larger footprint, but also you have access to services below. You have access to a medical facility, perhaps, and I think we'll see a lot of growth in medical facility outlets out of health systems, of course, worldwide. But there's going to be a small cafe, a grocery store, things, maybe some outdoor dining space that still allows people to social distance. I think we'll see that, and those kinds of communities here in the Americas are more prominent in some of the outlying areas out, within an hour and a half of a major market in what we used to call suburbs.
Mm-hmm. I'm mindful of that we've hit 3 o'clock, and does anybody need to leave at this moment, or have you got 10 minutes more? You need to leave, John, yeah? Okay.
Sorry.
Thanks. No, not at all. Thank you very much for joining. And
I'll need to send an email.
What's that? See you, John. Bye.
Thank you, John.
I just wanted to ask, actually, 5 minutes perhaps, I wanted to ask, sustainables, is that a thing of the past now, or will that come back? I think the TMCs are kind of like driving it back.
It definitely has come back. In fact, it'll come back probably quicker than it would have done. So sustainability is going to be a big issue. Wellness will be, continue to be a big issue.
That's
yeah, I agree.
A big issue. So what's happening in COVID is you're fast tracking lots of change. It's a revolution.
Interesting. And interesting thought with the productivity as well, with gauging the productivity of working from home, because that is a point.
I think this would, Richard, just to jump in there, I think it would be fantastic, right, if a organization, especially around sustainability, we've been puzzling a lot around that because it's absolutely a demand, to get some real good insights around that, right? Where we always kind of explain, listen, you've got less rubbish you throw away, right? Because you're living on yourself. There's less waste because you cook your own food. So there are a lot of elements that we tend to explain where the benefit is. You travel less because you're staying longer. So, there are a couple of those elements, but I think as an industry, I think towards the future, it's crucial, especially for the corporate world. Let me rephrase that, the corporate world. And the corporate world will never use Airbnb as it stands today unless something fundamentally changes there. So that's our kind of niche, which is like a 52 billion niche, right? So it's not a small niche. And I think that's one of the components that we need to get a grip on as industry.
And I'll mention also relative to sustainability, I think we'll continue to see the demand for more EV outlets for electric vehicles in some of the new construction space, so whether it's the mixed use or some of these legacy properties elsewhere. That continues to be a driving interest, a point of interest that we're hearing from travelers who may even be considering leasing an EV for a weekend trip and don't have a car every day of the week because they are working remotely. But there continues to be an interest in moving that needle on the carbon footprint, and not just for the millennial travelers. I think we're seeing that in all traveler classes.
All right, thank you. Again, mindful of the time, perhaps we should draw to a close gradually. Would anybody like to add anything in particular as their closing comments, or I think we're done more or less. It was a fast and furious kind of session because it is such a massive discussion, isn't it? On that, actually, join us on anybody that's watching. Join us at Saba Wine Time on Thursdays, 5 o'clock. And get in touch if you need the link. Well, I would like to before I clumsily go into the closing video. I would like to thank everybody very sincerely for the fabulous panelists, for contributing to this debate, the viewers live and on the recordings. And anybody would like to take part on the panel, or anybody have any suggestions for future debates, then please get in touch with me. But Tonia, Peter, Stephen, John, and Dominic, who couldn't join us, thank you very much indeed for this afternoon. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for orchestrating this, Richard.
No, it's my pleasure.
Cheers, all.
Now then, where is that video? Don't go there yet. Here we go.